Greetings to all my tech heads out there in the KevTechify nation, and if you're new here, welcome. In this episode, we're going to look at network time protocol configuration. We'll be discussing time and calendar services, NTP operation, and then we'll configure and verify NTP. This episode is part of my series on network security. I'm Kevin here at KevTechify. Let's get this adventure started. NTP stands for Network Time Protocol. Now, the software clock on a router or switch starts when that system boots. So when you reboot your system, that's when the clock starts. So the time will be off. It's like 1970 is when that clock will say the current time is. It is the primary source for time for the system. Now, it's important to synchronize these times across all your devices on the network because all aspects of managing, securing, troubleshooting, planning networks require accurate time stamping. The date and time settings on a router or switch can be manually configured. Now, in order to manually configure it, what we have to do, and this is one particularly this is one unique place where you're doing a system configuration and you're not in global configuration mode. Here we are just in privilege exec mode, and then we can enter in clock. We are setting it. You put the time in a 24-hour military time, so 1600 01 0 seconds, so 4:01 in the afternoon. Then you specify the month. You can use the abbreviation or you can spell out the whole name. Put the day of the month in there and then the year. When you do that, it will set the time. And then we do have the time date stamp set. So here we updated the system clock. And notice it says it was 13:09:49, Friday, September 25th. Now we've updated it to 16:01. We've updated the time by a couple of hours. Network time protocol networks use a hierarchical system of time sources. Each level in this hierarchical system is called a stratum. So each level, we call it a stratum. The stratum level is defined as the number of hops from an authoritative source. Here's a sample network. This is the authoritative source. Stratum 0 is the authoritative source. You can think of these as the big atomic clocks run by governments or big science institutions. These vary by like 0.000001 second every 1,000 years. So they keep a very, very concise, correct time. Then we have stratum 2, so they're one level away from the authoritative server. There's only a few computers that can directly connect to these authoritative time servers. That's our stratum 1 servers here. There's a handful of them. And the idea here is they don't want a lot of computers directly going towards our atomic clocks, our authoritative time servers to get their time. They only want a handful of them. And then what happens is a stratum 2, and that's usually about the best you can do, is that you're 2 hops away, so 1 hop, 2 hops from an authoritative time server. They actually connect not to the authoritative time server, but they connect to this stratum 1 server. The stratum 1 server then serves thousands, if not millions, of clients to serve out the time. We're not overloading the atomic clocks, but we have a handful, I guess more than a handful, but a select number here of stratum 1 servers that can actually communicate with these atomic clocks. Then the stratum 2 server can communicate with it. Stratum 3 server means, well, once again, we're 3 hops away from our authoritative time server, and they get their time from a stratum 2, sort of in a distribution. Stratum 3 should sync your time within about 0.005 seconds of the authoritative time clock. So you're still very accurate, 0.005 seconds to the authoritative time.
If you like this episode on NTP configuration and you get value out of it, and depending upon the platform you're using, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, leave a comment. Doing this supports the channel, which in turn helps me bring you more great content. Click that notification bell to turn on notifications to be alerted every time I release a new episode, and there are a lot of episodes headed your way. You can also visit my website at KevTechify.com for all my details on how to get these episodes in video and podcast form. Here's a topology to demonstrate how NTP works. Here we have an NTP server out on the internet. So this is not one of those atomic clocks. We're going to say that this is a Stratum 1 server here. So we have our authoritative time server here. This server gets its time from that authoritative time server. So it's one hop away. So Stratum 1 time server. Then you set up one of your devices on the network to pull its time from the Stratum 1 time server. So R1 is going to get its time from here. Now, how many hops away is it from the authoritative servers? It's 2 hops away. So this is a Stratum 2 server at this point in time. This Stratum 2 server is a client on this end, but now that its time is set, it can be a server to your network. And what we can do now is set up S1 to get its time from R1. And so that makes client 1 here, that makes S1 a client. It can pull its time from R1. And once again, how many hops away is it from an authoritative time server? Well, 1 to get to R1, 2 to get to the internet NTP server, 3 to get to our authoritative server. So this is a Stratum 3 here. Now that this has its right time, you can set this up to be a server to serve out time to your clients on your network. And they can get their time from these devices. And once again, we're 1 hop, 2 hops, 3 hops, 4 hops away. This is a Stratum 4 server. Where this comes into play is this time server here maybe serves to your location here on the East Coast. From here, maybe you have one that goes to the West Coast, and this was East Coast. Maybe you have another device in Europe. All 3 of these devices pull from R1 to get their time. So all 3 of these devices will pull and be synced up, and then they can also serve as a time server for other clients in their location. This switch here can not only serve as a time server for these clients, maybe it's connected up, maybe you have a second VLAN here, VLAN 2. So this is VLAN 1 here. We have VLAN 2, which is a different VLAN. We can then sync these clients to there. See how your one client, when it pulls its time from this one server here, then it can serve out the time to multiple devices. Now, not only is your company pulling probably from this time server, we have company XYZ pulling from it. We have company ABC pulling from it. And then it grows like a tree. It branches off and it handles out more. Having a minimal load up here on our authoritative time server to serve out time all the way down. And like I said, down here, you're looking at about 0.5 second differential from the authoritative time server with how this network time protocol is set up. To configure NTP, one of the first things I like to do is see what time your system actually is. You can use the command show clock detail, and what that's going to do is actually show you what time the device thinks it is. Here we are at 20 hours, 55 minutes, 10.207 seconds on the UTC time constant, and it thinks it's Friday, November 15th, 2019. So that's what the system is right here. We can then go and specify our NTP server. Now, you use the NTP server and then you put the IP address in here of your server, and this configures that server on a device, and use that server at 209, 165, 200, 225 to set your time. Now, if the source is another Cisco device, that device must be configured with the NTP master command. So we set our time here, we let it go through, let it synchronize. Sometimes it happens fairly quick, sometimes it does take up to a minute or two. And then we do the show time again, and now we can see that the time has adjusted to 21:01. We adjusted our time by about 6 minutes there. So now we've synced our time to that server. To verify it, there's two commands we can use to verify our NTP. The first one is show NTP associations. This is the check to see how did you set up your time, or how did you set up your servers. This is the IP address of the server we set, what type of reference clock there is. Not only can they get their time from these authoritative time servers and upstream Stratum servers, but they can pull it from the GPS network. So this reference clock here pulled it from the GPS. This is a Stratum 1 server and some other information that we can display there. The second command we can use is to show NTP status. So now we're going to show the status. Here it's saying our clock is synchronized. We're a Stratum 2, which makes sense because this was a Stratum 1, right? We've added another hop, so we are a Stratum 2. Our server is a Stratum 1. Our reference here is our IP address. This is that, once again, that address we set there. It gives us some other information about that, about how our NTP is working. It was my pleasure to provide you with this wonderful episode on NTP configuration. If you like this episode and you got value out of it, and depending upon the platform you're using, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, leave a comment. This all helps me bring you more great content. Please take a minute to subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell. All my socials and contact information are on my website, KevTechify.com, and you can get all of these episodes in video and podcast form. In the upper right is my playlist for my series on network security. In the bottom right is one of my favorite videos that I linked just for you. Thank you so much for watching this episode of my series on network security. Once again, I'm Kevin. This is KevTechify. I'll see you next time for another great adventure.